Good afternoon. I'm Mike Ignatieff, Rector and President of Central European University. On my left, Dr. Eva Fodor, Vice Rector for the Social Sciences, and Dr. Zsolt Enyedi, Pro-Rector for Hungarian Affairs. Thank you for coming. Welcome to this press conference. We have a number of announcements to make and details to fill you in about, and we'll welcome your questions afterwards. I'll be able to answer questions in English, and Eva and Zsolt will be happy to answer your questions in Hungarian. Our battle with Lex CEU is 2 months old, and I've already thanked the staff, the students, the faculty, and our alumni networks for a magnificent response to what we regard as a calculated and premeditated attack on the academic freedom of an institution which has been part of Hungarian academic life for 25 years and has no other agenda, no other desire than to remain in Hungary, continuing our contribution to academic life and academic freedom in Hungary. I can tell you that after 2 months, finally last Friday, the government of Hungary had a phone call with the Chief of Staff of the Governor of the State of New York. You'll be aware that the Governor Andrew Cuomo, has repeatedly expressed his willingness to be in dialogue with the government of Hungary to resolve this matter. And you'll be aware also that the previous governor, Governor Pataki, signed an agreement with the previous Prime Minister of Hungary. That was the agreement that set in train our Hungarian accreditation. And so from the beginning of this crisis, we have said, CEU has said, the right solution to this problem is a new binding bilateral agreement between the government of the state of New York and the government of Hungary. Mr. Altus, the Hungarian negotiator, has said he will not talk to us. I wish he would, but he's not talking to us. But he has begun talking to the New York state authorities. And I want to make it clear, we welcome that. And we hope that it will lead to a speedy, let me emphasize, speedy resolution of a dispute that has gone on far too long. Let me also just observe, you'll know this, but let me observe it. Lex CEU is under challenge in front of the Hungarian Constitutional Court, so its constitutionality is being challenged. The Venice Commission, which is a body of international experts, is assessing its constitutionality. And Lex CEU finally is being challenged by the European Commission on the grounds that it infringes European law. Now, one thing about this, if you're in CEU's position, is we don't control any of these outcomes. We're not party of the negotiations. We have made representations to the Constitutional Court, but that's up to the court to decide. And what happens in Europe may take months, possibly years. And basically what I wanted to tell you today is we can't wait for these outcomes. We would welcome solution of the problem, but we're a university and we have to keep going. So I just want you to know that CEU will continue operation in Budapest in the next academic year, 2017-2018. There's nothing in the law that, as we understand it, explicitly forbids us for doing so. The law, as you know, however, does prohibit us from taking new students for the academic year 2018-2019. So we are still threatened with an attack on our academic freedom that is extremely serious, because a university that can't take new students is a university that's fated to die or fated to close. And I want to emphasize to all of you today, we will not close. I made a commitment to maintain the continuity of our academic programs The Board of Trustees supports us in this area. The faculty supports us in there. CEU continues its operations. We will continue next year. And we hope that in the course of the next few months, this absurd effort by the government to shut us down in 2018-19 will be taken away, and we'll stay in Budapest and continue the contribution that we've made for 25 years to Hungarian academic life. So, Budapest is our home. We're staying here, and it's business as usual. I hope that message is perfectly clear. I hope you've also heard the message. We want the negotiations to succeed, but we can't sit around waiting for a process over which we have no control. Let me make two further announcements that we think are great news and a sign of an example of what we bring to Budapest and what we bring to Hungary. On the 22nd of June, that is Thursday the 22nd of June, CEU will be sponsoring an academic conference called Academic Freedom, the Global Challenge. We're very aware at CEU that we're not the only university that's having a problem with the government. Think about Turkey, think about Russia, think about universities around the world. And we want to gather people to think in an academic way about those challenges. And I'm happy to tell you that that conference will be closed with a keynote by a truly great defender of freedom, the Nobel laureate Mario Vargas Llosa. And so we're absolutely delighted that Mario Vargas Llosa is coming, clearly as a statement of support for CEU, but also to contribute to a debate on that issue. And finally, on June the 23rd, we have our graduation, our commencement ceremony. And at that commencement, I'm happy to announce that a truly great European, a man who's a personal hero to me, Joachim Gauck, the President of the Federal Republic of Germany until March 2017 of this year, will receive the Open Society Prize to honor his contribution to the life of free societies, his distinguished public service, but also something that people are perhaps apt to forget, his absolutely decisive role in the transition from tyranny in East Germany to freedom. And we want to honor Joachim Gauck. We're delighted to have Mario Vargas Llosa with us. We're delighted to have Joachim Gauck here. Both of those are symbols of our commitment to be in Budapest, our commitment to bring to Budapest people who enrich and enliven Hungarian academic life. With that, I will stop, just to reiterate our unshakable determination to remain in our home, Budapest, and ask my colleagues, first Eva Fodor, and first ask Zsolt Enyedi to say something, and then Eva Fodor. And I would also like to introduce, from Yangon in Myanmar, our Provost Liviu Matei. Liviu is doing another example of what CEU does. Despite everything that's happened to us, we continue to work with other universities. In this case, Liviu Matei is working with the University of Yangon in Myanmar to help get it ready to accept students and develop. Myanmar is a transitional society. It needs our help to create great universities there. And it's the kind of work that we're proud that CEU is able to do despite everything that's been going on. I'd like to ask Zsolt to say a few words, and then Eva, and then perhaps Liviu will fill us in very briefly on the issue from Yangon, and then I'm very happy to take any questions you may have. Zsolt.
Én is köszöntök mindenkit. A mai sajtótájékoztatónak az az apropója, hogy 2 hónappal ezelőtt kezdődött el az a küzdelem, aminek a célja az, hogy a CEU a jelenlegi formájában maradhasson, működhessen Budapesten. Ebben a küzdelemben mi rendkívüli segítséget kaptunk a magyar társadalomtól, a magyar felsőoktatástól, az akadémiától, a nemzetközi felsőoktatás képviselőitől, úgyhogy szeretnénk ezt megköszönni. Ebben a pillanatban úgy állunk, hogy több kommunikációs csatorna is működik, de egyik fölött sincs kontrollunk. Tehát folyik egyrészt egy egyeztetés Altus Kristóf államtitkár helyettes részéről a New York-i kormányzóval, és mi nagy reményeket fűzünk ehhez az egyeztetéshez. Ezen kívül ugye az Európai Bizottság és a magyar kormány is között is folyik egy kommunikáció. Várunk arra is, hogy az Európa Tanácsnak a Velencei Bizottsága vélemény nyilvánítson a kérdésünkben, és természetesen várjuk azt, hogy az Alkotmánybíróság lehetőleg minél hamarabb döntést hozzon a kérdésünkben. Mindegyik csatornában az a közös, hogy tőlünk függetlenül zajlik. Mi ugyan szerettünk volna egy közvetlen tárgyalásba bonyolódni a magyar kormánnyal. A magyar kormány ezt a megfelelő szinten nem tartotta helyesnek, de ebből mi nem csinálunk presztízskérdést, hogyha a New York állam kormányzójával való tárgyalások eredményre vezetnek, mi annak is teljes mértékben örülünk. A rektor úr az előbb bejelentette, hogy minden ellenkező híreszteléssel szemben az egyetemünk a 2017-18-as évet teljes rendben, a szokásoknak megfelelően fogja lefolytatni, bármi is történik. Tehát elindítjuk az évet szeptemberben. 2017-18. Tehát ebben az évben, a következő akadémiai évben ugyanúgy fogjuk folytatni az oktatást és a kutatást, mint a korábbiakban. Ugyanakkor természetesen várjuk azt, hogy mi hamarabb, lehetőleg a következő hetekben megoldás szülessen az egyetem kérdésében, mivel a toborzást azt nem tudjuk jövő évben a szokásoknak megfelelően lefolytatni. Ugyanakkor a tevékenységünk folytatása az ki fog terjedni nem csak a oktatásra, kutatásra, hanem arra a tevékenységre, amiről Liviu Matei rektor helyettes fog nem sokára beszámolni, amely más országokban zajlik, illetve tervezünk olyan eseményeket, konferenciákat, amelyek a következő hetekben és hónapokban mutatni fogják, hogy milyen érdemi kutatás, diplomáciai munka folyik az egyetem keretein belül. Ennek kapcsán két eseményt említett meg a rektor úr. Az első esemény az akadémiai konferencia, amelyet június 22-én fogunk tartani, amin Mario Vargas Llosa Nobel-díjas író lesz a főszónok. A második esemény pedig az az évzáró esemény, ahol is Joachim Gauck fogja átvenni a nyitott társadalom díját. Tehát azt gondoljuk, hogy ezek a tervezett események mutatják, hogy minden normálisan zajlik a CEU-n, amennyire ilyen abnormális körülmények között lehet normálisan viselkedni. Mi abból indulunk ki, hogy előbb-utóbb megoldás fog születni az egyetem kapcsán, és ezért mindent megteszünk annak érdekében, hogy konstruktív szerepet játszhassunk ezekben a folyamatokban.
I'm wondering whether, Eva, you would like to add anything to what's been said?
Not really.
Okay. Fine. We would now welcome questions, and just all put up your hand, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Yeah, front row. Perhaps if everybody could just introduce themselves so we know who's talking, that'd be great.
Nick Thorpe from the BBC. You mentioned that talks have now begun, albeit on the telephone, between a representative of the state of New York and the Hungarian government. Do you have any idea of the negotiating position of the state of New York? Are they asking the government here simply to sit down finally and talk with you, or is there an agreement on the table that is simply waiting for signatures, or what's going on there? Thank you.
Well, as I said, we're not at the table and we're not privy to the talks. I have been briefed after that phone call with Mr. Altush, and I can say that Mr. Altush committed to continue these discussions and in person You'll have to get confirmation of that from Mr. Altush. I can't speak for him, and I can't, that's what I understand. The New York, the governor's office will negotiate on the basis that the state of New York accredits our degrees. You can't get an accredited degree in New York unless the institution can give guarantees of its academic freedom. That's how it works. That is, to have an accredited master's degree in New York and to be accredited by the Middle States Commission, these American accreditations that are so important to us, you don't get them unless you're an academically free institution, right? Because these authorities check whether we are academically free, that is, whether we're run by a board of trustees, whether we're financially responsible, whether we're fully independent, and whether all of our degrees match up to the highest international standards. So what the governor of New York will be saying is, these are the degrees that we want accredited in Hungary. Now, these are the degrees that CEU should have the right to issue out of CEU. One thing I want to make clear is I don't want to use this press conference to negotiate in public with the Hungarian government. They won't talk to us, but I don't want to use a press conference to negotiate with them. We've had too much of that for 2 months. If we can get the governor's office and Mr. Altush in a room, and they can actually negotiate and actually exchange points of view and perspectives, we feel optimistic, at least on the New York side, that there'll be no obstacle to an agreement. So the ball is in the Hungarian government's court. And all we're saying today is we can't wait for this stuff to work out. We can't run according to their timetable. We've got a university to run. I don't know whether Joel would like to perhaps add some, our translation of a version of that in Hungarian so the message is clearly understood among our Hungarian friends.
Tehát azt hiszem a lényeg az, hogy most a másik térfélen pattog a labda, arra várunk, hogy a magyar kormány konstruktív tárgyalásokat folytasson New York állammal. Nekünk ezekre a tárgyalásokra nincs befolyásunk, igazából csak reménykedünk, hogy ezek valódi tárgyalások, és nem pusztán látszat beszélgetések. Amennyiben minket megkeresne bármelyik fél, akár a New York, akár a magyar kormány, akkor természetesen információval más módon segítjük ezeket a tárgyalásokat, de sajnos azoknak a kimenetele nem rajtunk múlik.
Zoltán Simon from Bloomberg. My question is, I think I asked this at the last press conference as well. Is there a plan B? I mean, if you have an unshakable determination to stay in Budapest on the one hand, yet the situation isn't resolved, and yet you can't wait for the outcome, then it begs the question.
It's a good question, but I think one of the purposes of this press conference is to make it very clear to our friends in Hungary and the government with which we're in dispute that it would be a serious mistake on their part to assume that if you just keep delaying and delaying and delaying, eventually we'll be forced to make contingency plans and other arrangements. And we're saying we're here, we're in Budapest, and I'm not going to entertain discussion of these contingency plans. If you're dealing with this government, to be very candid, you have to have contingency plans. But my view is that what I want to avoid is a kind of game of chicken here. We're not going to play that game. We're a university in a serious place, and I have to maintain the continuity of our academic programs, and we will do so in all circumstances. And they should not make the fatal assumption that if they just push us a little harder, we're gonna go. This is our home. I can't stress that too strongly.
Yeah, Hello, I'm Marton Beder from 444.hu. I've got two questions. The first of them is that both of you speaking now and the tone of your press release seems somewhat more optimistic than what you were saying a couple of weeks ago. Am I right to notice that? What has made you more optimistic? Is it Mr. Altus speaking with Mr. Cuomo, something else?
Well, I think it's a good sign that Mr. Altus is speaking to Mr. Cuomo's office. Yes. I think it's an even better sign that they've committed to another meeting. But I'm stressing that let's not get ahead of ourselves. I would say the optimism is cautious and measured. But the key point I'm making is that we can't, since we have no control over these events, the only thing we can control is our academic calendar. And it's very important for me to give continuity and stability to, people forget, we got 400 Hungarian employees. We've got people who their whole lives have been here, and I want to give them continuity and stability through 2017-18, and we're going to try and solve the problem. That's what I'm saying. So I would say this, if you ask me, are we in a stronger position than we were when this crisis started? I would say we are. I would not overestimate our strength or underestimate it, but I would say, as a matter of hard political fact, we're in a stronger position because we've resisted, we've said no. And we are very hopeful now that we can get somewhere, but you only get somewhere if you show strength.
Yep, and my second question is a bit...
Csak hogy hozzátehetek valamit, tehát nem csupán azért beszélünk Budapestről most ilyen hangsúlyozottan és a maradásról, mert hogy az Altus-féle esetleges tárgyalások némi optimizmusra adnak alkalmat, hanem arról is szó van, hogy az elmúlt hetek eseményei tudatosították bennünk még inkább, mint korábban, hogy kötelezettségeink vannak a várossal és az országgal szemben. Tehát, hogy maradnunk kell, ameddig csak lehet.
So my second question is a bit about this Plan B that's already been mentioned. I mean, you obviously can't keep the university in limbo for a very, very long time. And when does that date arrive? Obviously, somewhere between the 17-18 and the 18-19 academic year, something has to give, because there will be a point where less students will apply to come to CEU. You must have given this a thought.
Sure. I can say very confidently that we've seen no fall off in our acceptance of students. We've got a full class for next year, and that's been very gratifying. Despite all the turbulence, despite all the pressure, we got a full class for September 2017. That's great news. I think that the question of deadlines, what we're saying is we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The government has passed legislation. Let them enforce it. Let me explain what I mean by that. We've been in dialogue with the government for 2 months trying to get clarity about what this act actually means in practical terms. But because the government has simply refused to talk to us at all in detail about what implementation of CEU actually means, I can't sit here waiting forever for them to make up their minds. And so we have to run a university. And so that's what we're going to do. I don't know whether anybody...
Köszönöm szépen, Major Eszter vagyok M1-től. Az lenne a kérdésem, hogy a jelenlegi felsőoktatási törvény szerint egy külföldi felsőoktatási intézmény esetében a székhely szerinti országban is diplomakiadási tevékenységet kell végeznie annak az intézménynek. Ezt, hogyha jól tudom, a CEU esetében jelenleg nem így működik, de cáfoljon meg, hogyha nem így van, és hogyha tényleg nem így van, akkor ezzel kapcsolatban folyik-e valamilyen eljárás, hogy így legyen?
Teljesen helyesen idézte a feltételt, ez ugye egy új feltétel, eddig ilyen nem volt. Most vezették be ezt az új kondíciót, ezt mi jelen pillanatban nem teljesítjük. A probléma az, hogy nem is tudjuk, hogy mely esetben teljesítenénk. Tehát kérdeztük azt a magyar kormány képviselőitől, hogy definiálják, hogy pontosan mit jelent az a bizonyos oktatási, tényleges oktatási tevékenység, amelyet az Egyesült Államokban folytatni kéne, nem kaptunk pontos definíciót. Ezt problémának gondolom, azzal együtt is, hogy amúgy sem jogilag, sem egyetemi, szakmai szempontból nem tartjuk jogosnak és indokolnak ezt az új feltételt.
If I can just add one thing to what, I'm sorry, if I can just add one thing to what Zsolt said. We are not an exception. There are nearly 30 American institutions operating in foreign countries who do not have campuses in the United States. Think the American University in Cairo, or think the American University in Beirut. We're not a special case, and we're not claiming any special privileges. Our argument, and it's Zsolt has made it, is we don't see the educational justification. If somebody could present an educational justification for that, we're willing to discuss everything. But the government has discussed nothing with us.
Szilárd Tecár from Magyar Narancs. Do you think it will be enough for a solution to conclude an intergovernmental agreement between New York and Hungary, or the Hungarian government also must change or repeal Lex CEU?
My sense of this is that it's not, we've opposed the law for 2 months. We've said this is basically not so much a law as a premeditated political attack, serving an agenda that has nothing to do with us. I'm not in a position to tell the Parliament of Hungary, the government of Hungary to repeal legislation. I'm just saying it's a really bad bill. It damages Hungarian higher education. That's a key point here. This is not just about us. It damages the international academic prestige of some great institutions, which is why the Hungarian Academy of Sciences has stood with us, why many other Hungarian institutions have stood by. All we've said, it's a bad bill. And we've said we're willing to sit down and talk about how we can get around it, fix it, alter it. It would be arrogant of me to say repeal it. We've got negotiations going, or I hope we've got negotiations going. Get in a room and fix it. And we think there are ways that we could find a constructive solution. Yes.
Thank you, Andrew Byrne from the Financial Times. I mean, given that you haven't, as you said, you haven't had talks with the government directly on this, is there anything concrete that gives you hope that these talks with the state of New York are actually being conducted in good faith?
I'm always a little wary to talk about people's good and bad faith. I'm interested in results. The result that I think is important is that, as I understand it, and I hope you'll check this with him, because I'm not authorized to speak for Mr. Altus, and I could just be dead wrong, but my understanding is that they are going to meet face-to-face in 2 weeks. That's not about intentions, good or bad. It's a concrete fact that they may be in the same room after more than 2 months. I think that's very positive. I also think it's positive that they're having discussions with the state of New York, because we believe that that is the jurisdiction that has jurisdiction. So those are the 2 facts on which I was asked earlier about optimism. If you ask me what the optimism is connected to, it's connected to those 2 facts. They're talking to New York, and they're going to meet. And let's hope this produces positive results, because, all the parents, that's what we want. We've said we're going back to work. And we've said we want this resolved, so we stay here. The only path I can see to get those objectives met is through these discussions.
From the Club Radio, and I just wanted to ask you, you as well as me experienced situations where the Hungarian government promised something abroad, but did the opposite here in the country. So don't you think that they will give some answers to what they are asked in a positive way in New York or anywhere, and then they come home and do the opposite? What do you answer, or what do you react? Thank you.
Well, all I would say is that would treat Governor Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, with very serious disrespect, and it would obviously have consequences. And I hope they are not foolish enough to do that. That would be a blunder. Let me put it that way.
Csak annyit tennék ehhez hozzá, hogy miközben mi nem vagyunk részei ezeknek a tárgyalásoknak, kommunikációnak, eközben, hogyha bárki azt gondolja, hogy ezt a kérdést úgy lehet levenni az asztalról, hogy az nem találkozik a mi egyetértésünkkel, tehát a mi fejünk felett, a mi szempontjaink figyelembe nem vételével lehetne ezt a kérdést megoldani, az illúzió.
Peter Murphy, the French news agency. I know you've said that these processes are outside your control, but do you have a sense of where or how the replies from the European Commission will be to the government response last week? Also the Constitutional Court challenge and the Venice Commission opinion, which they said yesterday would only be formed in October. Are you disappointed by that? And secondly, what would you say to a student who is now currently looking at the CEU website, would love to come here to start a PhD in 2018, 2019? What would you say to that student?
Apply tomorrow. Seriously, you've asked a serious question, but that is a serious answer. We have an international reputation, and that means we're aware that our students have choices. And, part of what makes this situation maddening is Budapest is one of the most wonderful destinations for international student education in the world. I think our Hungarian colleagues need to appreciate this. It's an enormous asset for CEU and for any institution to be in Budapest, because it's a great seat of culture and it's a wonderful town, especially for young people. So we want to say, please apply, and apply to Budapest, because that adds enormously to your experience here. And every one of our CEU students says that. So that would be the first thing, and I hope Joe will repeat that in Hungarian so the message gets out, because it's what we know it's an asset in our recruitment that we're here. As for disappointment about other timetables, the Venice Commission is a bunch of very serious legal scholars and experts. They'll take the time they have to take to get it right, and they provide constitutional advice, and we think that's terrific that they're engaged. We have no control over their timeline any more than we have control over the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court is a great institution in this country, and they're going to take the time they're taking. I want to treat all these institutions with great respect. I'm just saying I can't wait for this to get sorted out, because I've got to get my academic calendar running, and that's what I'm saying today. So that's what we're going to do. Perhaps Zsolt could emphasize this point about Hungary, because it's so important to us.
Igen, tehát úgyis, mint a rektor úr magyar hangja. Röviden összefoglalnám, hogy egyrészt arra bíztatunk minden diákot, hogy jelentkezzen. Az egyetemünk az egy nagyon robusztus intézmény, itt lesz jövőre, működni fog 2, 3, 4, 10, 100 év múlva is. És különösen fontos számunkra az, hogy Budapesten működhessen, és ez tulajdonképpen önző okból mondjuk, Budapest a világ egyik legjobb városa egyetem működtetési szempontból. Tehát számunkra egy hatalmas privilégium, hogy itt lehetünk, ebben a városban működhetünk, a fiataloknak, a jövendő diákoknak idejönni Budapestre tanulni, ennél jobb destináció, ennél jobb célpont nem is létezhet. Tehát mi ehhez ragaszkodni fogunk, és azt szeretnénk tudatosítani minden diákban és egyetemi kollégában is, hogy ezt a helyszínt, ezt meg kell becsülni.
Questions? Further questions? Eva, you've been very silent and restrained here. Anything you'd like to add? No, whatever, you just maybe add to what we've said, because it's important. You've been an important part of our voice in Hungary.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting experience for the faculty and the students as well, as you can imagine. Let me add a thought to this idea of whether or not we encourage students to come. Over the past 2 months, our community, if anything, has grown a whole lot stronger. And this is true for the students as well as the faculty. So in some sense, we have become an even better university than we were before. And, you know, there's a saying that all that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's actually possibly true for us here. And I believe that the students who come for the next academic year will certainly have a very interesting experience, and one that's possibly different from the experience of students before, which can be used both as part of their personal experience and also part of their academic experience. So in some sense, I believe that this place is, CEU in Budapest, CEU in general is, if anything, getting more exciting, getting more attractive for students and possibly for faculty alike.
Can I just ask very briefly, as we begin to come to a close here, Livia Mate is in Myanmar, helping the University of Yangon. It's a very interesting story what CEU is doing. It's a sign of our global outreach, our desire to learn, take some of the hard lessons that we've learned about how you make a university work, and reach out and help a young country creating a great university system itself. I'm wondering whether, Livia, you could just give us a very concise account of what you're trying to do in Yangon.
Well, good afternoon. It is hard to be away from home in such moments, but as the rector said, we continue our work, and I am here for work. CEU has been invited by the Ministry of Education of Myanmar and by the leadership of the University of Yangon to help put together a master plan for the revitalization of the University of Yangon, once one of the best universities in this part of the world. But as you know, Myanmar had dictatorship, various types of dictatorship for several decades. They now have just recently elected a new democratic government after these decades of interruptions, and they have invited us here to help with applied policy research, basically, what it would take for a university to become a great university serving this country and becoming recognized in the world, and how other universities are conducting their business and their operations in similar situations in the world. And they have invited us, CEU, and we are some 8,000 kilometers away from Yangon, because we are both an example of how a new university can be created in conditions of democratic transition, and we are also a center that is recognized for expertise in the study of transition, including in transition in higher education. So that's why we are here, and I can tell you this is exciting work. I will just add one other thing very briefly. CEU is well known in Hungary, and the people of Myanmar know and respect Hungary, in particular thinking of the role that Hungary has played during the post-communist transition in our part of the world, in Central and Eastern Europe. Most people we are speaking with, whether in the government or in the academia, are baffled. They don't understand how a democratically elected government in a democratic country in Europe can attack and try to close down or oust of a university like Central European University. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to ask the questions they need. Let me emphasize, sorry, question there.
Sorry, land concerning another college functioning in Hungary. Do you know anything about that agreement? How does that look? What kind of prospects does that give to CEU?
Very briefly, and I think Zsolt or Eva may want to add something. We are aware that that Maryland and Hungary may have concluded this agreement. Here's the funny thing about our situation. We know it's happening, but no one will share the agreement with us. Now, you would have thought, isn't that a crazy thing? I mean, we're looking for a solution to this problem, so why withhold a potential agreement that could provide a model for a solution? We welcome the fact that this agreement may be concluded. I don't know the current status. And the government is trying to play, one university off against another. We're not going to play that game. We welcome any university working out an agreement with the Hungarian government because the more international education there is in Hungary, the better. But, these games in which we ask for, could you show us the agreement, and they don't show it to us, illustrate that it's a frustrating situation. But I want to make it clear we welcome the Maryland agreement and hope that it might provide the basis for potentially a New York agreement. I don't know, I think Zsolt may have something to add about that.
We are very happy to hear about this agreement. We are also a bit puzzled in the sense that the news was that the agreement was signed. Now, I don't understand how could it be signed given the fact that the Law and Higher Education refers to the federal level agreement as a preliminary agreement that should be prior to the state level agreement. So how could in this case the state level agreement precede the federal level agreement? I have no answer to this. In general, we are very happy. We wish the best to McDaniel College. We are in the same boat, and we hope that we will be rescued both.
I just want to make sure, any further questions? Yeah.
Florence Labruyère from the French radio and newspaper Libération. Follow-up on what you just said. I think it's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who said that Hungary had concluded various agreements in the past with the federal American government in the field of university and education. And the ministry was saying, well, I don't understand why CEU says that the federal government has no authority on that matter, because we have concluded agreements in the past with the federal government.
Let me just correct one thing you said. It's not CEU that said the federal government has no authority. It's the United States Department of State that said, we have no authority to speak on behalf of the federal government of the United States. That's a matter for the federal government. They have made, I refer to the statement that came out from the State Department authoritatively from Washington last week, saying you're knocking on the wrong door, basically. And currently we seem to have a Hungarian government that can't take no for an answer. I mean, it's not our problem, or it is our problem, but there's nothing we can do about it. I'm not authorized to speak for the government of the United States, and I'd never dream of doing so. So it's a matter between the government of Hungary and the government, the federal government. But I want to make a point I made earlier, which is that we view it as a very positive development that they're talking to the state of New York, which we believe is the government that has the jurisdiction.
Maybe I can clarify something about those three documents. As far as we understand, those are indeed agreements between the Hungarian government and the US government, but they're about completely different things. They're exchange programs, Fulbright programs, and another one that establishes the American high school in Budapest. None of these are universities, none of these are specific educational programs. Megpróbálom elmondani magyarul, tehát ez a három, már ezt többször mondtuk a médiában is, de ez a három dokumentum, amiről a magyar kormány képviselői beszélnek, ezek egyáltalán nem hasonlítanak ahhoz a fajta megállapodáshoz, amit most itt elvárnának, vagy a törvény szerint elvárnának tőlünk. Ezek olyan csereprogramok részben csereprogramok, amik természetesen két állam közötti megállapodásnak a részei, a Fulbright program, illetve egy diák csereprogram, és a harmadik pedig az amerikai általános iskola és középiskolának a dokumentuma, amelyet igen alacsony szinten írtak alá, tehát ezt a Magyarországra telepített amerikai nagykövet írta alá. Tehát ez a három dokumentum semmilyen szinten nem hasonlítható ahhoz, amit most itt elvárnának tőlünk.
Further questions, comments? Yes, I see one there.
Jövőre, szeptembertől tananyag lesz már az önök mostani története a CEU-n.
That's a wonderful question. I think it's not for a rector or president to tell his faculty what to teach, but I think we've all learned from this. We've learned deep lessons about ourselves. Eva said earlier that it forced us to come together as a community. It forced us to think deeply about what it is to believe in academic freedom. I'll be candid with you, I don't think I thought about academic freedom all that much until it was attacked. Freedom is one of those things you take for granted until someone tries to take it away from you. And we have had a real lesson in what freedom is and how you have to fight to defend it. We've tried to do so respectfully, and we've tried to do so in dialogue with the Hungarian government. But make no mistake, we will defend that freedom, and the last 2 months have redoubled and strengthened our determination to defend that freedom. And the other final point I'd make, and I don't mean this as grand rhetoric, I just mean it as simple truth. We're not just fighting for ourselves here. We're trying to fight so that the academic freedom of all Hungarian institutions are respected and strengthened. And if we have a contribution in that area, we'll be enormously pleased.
Még egy gondolat. Tulajdonképpen már most is tananyag. Egyrészt azért, mert az egyetemi professzorok általában szeretik az őket érintő kérdéseket tanulmányozni, de a diákjaink is már szerveztek nem csak a mi diákjaink, hanem az ELTE és más egyetemek diákjaival közösen egy programot, ahol elgondolkoztak azon, hogy mi a szólásszabadság, mi az akadémiai szabadság, mi az egyetemeknek a szerepe Magyarországon, a világban, mit tudnak az egyetemek hozzárakni a közélethez. És azt remélik, hogy ezek az események folytatódnak más egyetemeken. Tehát ha nem is tananyag, de egy olyan téma lesz, vagy már most is egy olyan téma, amin gondolkozunk. Nem is beszélve erről a június 22-i konferenciáról, amit pontosan az akadémiai szabadság jegyében, vagy témájában szervezünk.
Another question? There being no further questions, let me just say, and I'd ask Zsolt or Eva to conclude in Hungarian. I'd like to thank the press for your attention to this story, your attempt to cover it, your engagement with it. We remain open to you to talk and discuss these issues with you at any time, and I thank you for coming here today.
Szeretnénk tehát búcsúzásképpen megköszönni az önök érdeklődését. Ez rendkívül fontos számunkra, hiszen hogyha nem fordul figyelem irányunkban, akkor könnyen lehet, hogy az ügyünket szőnyeg alá söprik, de úgy látom, hogy az önök érdeklődése biztosíték afelől, hogy továbbra is a figyelem középpontjában maradunk. Mi igyekszünk a továbbiakban is minden kérdésükre válaszolni. Köszönjük szépen!